Welcome back to the podcast. Today's episode is about following that little voice in your head that's telling you to go start that project, start that business, that charity, go on an adventure, whatever it is. It's about how to get there, really. So before I go into that, I just want to talk about last week's hike to the Brecon Beacons. So if you tuned in last week, you would have heard me talking about a little project called Greenwoods, with the extension Green Hikes. So basically, our charity, our CIC, runs a group which is aimed at people who struggle with isolation, maybe their mental health, people who feel isolated in the community, that kind of thing. And it turns out there's a lot of people like that. I'm one of them, and it's just been really good getting people outside into nature, forming connections. And the idea is that when they go on these small little local walks, 2 to 3 hours, they can work up towards something bigger, like a hike up a mountain. So that's what we did last week. We went to the Sugarloaf in the Brecon Beacons, one of the smaller mountains, but definitely quite challenging. We all found it a bit of a challenge, even the more able of us. And it was really, really positive, really. I was still struggling with my chest infection that's been on me for about a month. It's completely taken me out, and I'm only just now this week feeling back to myself. I actually think it's partly down to yakking up a mountain that's helped get me back to where I am. So got my energy back, still got a cough, probably should see a doctor about that, but yeah, there was a few little problems with the hike, personal problems, I suppose. It was difficult because I've done the mountain leader qualification, and actually being a mountain leader with a group of it was a group of 14 actually. It was slightly overbooked, but we'll say a group of 12 you're supposed to have. It was quite different from the training, I suppose. I've got quite a quiet voice, and leading a group who tend to, well, you know, we all knew the route, we all knew the way up, and people quite often went quite far ahead, and it was a bit of a challenge for me keeping the group not under control. I wasn't trying to control people. It was more keeping people close enough just in case something went wrong. That was a bit of a challenge. So I spoke to Emma about it, and we're gonna well, it's just something I need to work on, really. So it's been really good. It was the first real paid mountain day I've done after becoming a mountain leader. It's quite hard to find mountain leader work because it's such an enjoyable job. So what we've had to do is basically make our own work. We've had to basically have my own business, and we have a charity, and it gets people outside, and sometimes that's up mountains. So that's really, really good. And again, about having quite a quiet voice, it's something I'm personally working on. I don't think it's something that defines me. I used to think that being quiet, being not having a strong authoritative voice was just me, but it's not. It's something I'm working on, and one of the reasons I started this podcast was to work on my communication, and it's been extremely helpful because I can watch it back. I can analyze how my voice is coming across, and I can use it more like an instrument rather than just a way of delivering words. So I'm sure I'll watch these episodes back in 5 years and think, what a boring voice I had, but we'll see. Anyway, overall successful hike. Everyone had a absolutely great time. It was really about those people who might maybe from more deprived backgrounds as well, so they may not ever have had the chance to go to the Brecon Beacons or anywhere further afield. So really good project. We're going to carry on through the rest of this year after the National Lottery have funded a year of this project. So how did we get there? That's what today's episode's about, really. How did we get to, well, how did I get to basically doing my dream job, getting paid for it, and people being able to access it without having to pay, really? And how did we get to the point where we can address the people that need this kind of activity most? Because that was the whole point of starting a charity. I did want to do mountain walks. I wanted to do walking groups, and The only problem with that was they're quite expensive. It's quite expensive to hire a mountain leader for the day, and only a certain kind of person can afford that. You know, it's at least £250 a day to hire a mountain leader. Some charge a lot more, and the only person who could afford that isn't necessarily the kind of person I'd want to take up a mountain. Not that I'd say no, it's just there's many more people I'd much prefer to take up a mountain, and they very rarely have that kind of spare money. I don't have that kind of spare money, I'll put it that way. So we wanted to do it that way. We wanted to go for that kind of person that really needs it, and so it was just so good. The hike on Saturday, seeing that come to fruition. So we got there by, like I said last week, keeping our eyes open, coming up with the idea that we wanted to take people outside who need it most, form connections, work on their mental health, build up, work up to challenges, that kind of thing. We said that's what we want, because Emma and I have had our own outdoor businesses for a while now. Emma's had one for about 5 years, mine was about 2 years old. Emma's was much more successful than mine. And we basically said we want to do this, but for free, for people that want it most, need it most. And then all this time we've had our outdoor businesses, several people have told us over the years, I suppose, set up a CIC, and we sort of ignored it, really. What's a CIC? Oh, it's like a charity. Oh, I don't want to do a charity. And they said, oh, but you can pay yourself a salary. And I'm like, I don't want to be salaried. That's the whole point. I want to get away from that. I don't want to be an employee anymore. So instead of listening to what they were actually saying, both of us just shut down from it. We said, no, we're business people. We want to just do it ourselves, and that's fine. But you only get business from people that can afford it. And again, that was, Emma's had this more often than me, but she's had certain customers who they're just not the sort of people you want to work with, really. That's all I'll say about that. So most of them are absolutely lovely people, like the majority of people in the world, believe it or not. So kept our eyes open, and we came up with this idea. I don't know where the idea actually became a real thing, but we set up the CIC in September 2024. It's now April 25, so it's not even 6 months since we set it up, but we're already away with it, really. We've already got, it's pretty much my full-time job. If it's slowly becoming that, it's just waiting for more funding, but right now it is the majority of what I do. Obviously Emma's pregnant quite heavily, so she's on maternity leave. She can't work right now, otherwise she doesn't get free money. But when she comes back, it will be her job. And our friend Becky's currently sometimes getting paid, sort of getting paid a low amount, but in more than enough for her time. She's a very valuable asset to the CIC. So it just seemed quite cheeky asking for money to do our dream job. But then we thought, no, we are actually doing quite a good thing. We're offering free activities to people who need it most, because they, even if they could afford it, they wouldn't pay for it, because I suppose they're the sort of people that would rather spend money on someone else first. So, and we also just wanted to make the world, well, not the world, a better place. We wanted to make our little community, little county of Gloucestershire, a better county to be in. And the way we were best equipped to do that was help people with their mental health, help people with isolation, and in doing that we can help build a stronger community. It was mainly those two ways, really. And obviously there's the physical health benefits of being on a walking group, but it was really just about, well, we're going to focus on our community, we're going to make it stronger, we're going to make it more connected, and we're just going to make everyone, if we can make everyone who comes on these walks 10% happier, that would be great. So I do think we're getting there. I do think we're actually achieving that. So that focus on the community is where the CIC idea came in. CIC, it's Community Interest Company. It's literally, it's a company that has the community's interests in mind. So that's where we were. We came up with the idea. It was obviously some point before September last year, 2024. But yeah, we just thought we just got to go for it really. So set it up. It was £65 plus £1 each to have to own the company, I guess. But £65 registration fee. Within a week, we were incorporated. We were a real CIC. And that was quite exciting, but we had no money. We had nothing else apart from a document saying you're a CIC, well done. So made a logo, went on Fiverr, got one for, I think we paid someone like £11, and Fiverr's really, really great. It's like a space, it's a website you go to and an app when you need something creative done. It could be anything. We needed a logo done, and obviously graphic design, much like mountain leading, is a really, really competitive field. It's really hard to get paid work in, and the way you do that is by building your portfolio. So in the early days, maybe the first year or so, you do it for very low cost, basically free, basically just build your portfolio, and then one day you get really well paid work really. So that's where we were. We thought we'll go there, give someone an opportunity, and he did a really good job. So we had our logo. Then came all the funding applications, all the reading, websites, all the networking, all the mistakes, all the disappointments for it was about 4 months. Felt like a long 4 months though. So we got told, just look through the internet, type in keywords for funding. So mental health, well-being, isolation, belonging, nature, outdoors. Turns out there's a lot of funding for that available right now, which is really good. Seems the rest of the world's realising how important it is being outside, and that it's not something you do as a hobby, it's actually something you need as a fundamental human need, like water and social contact. So it was mainly me doing the funding, because Emma had at the time her own business, Wild and Green. She was running that, and I wasn't. I was just working at a mental health charity, and thankfully there was big gaps of time in the day. It was 12-hour shifts, but about 10 of those hours was empty really. It was just space to do CIC stuff really. So I did. Whenever there was a free bit of time, I'd sit down on the computer, or I'd get my phone out and I'd look up this company, that trust, that foundation that was offering funding, and started off, wrote the first application. Absolutely terrible, didn't really read what they were about. I just said, please give me money, I want to do this. I didn't literally say that. It was about 1,000-word application, and it was basically outlining the project. We didn't even have a name for it. We called it Gloucestershire and Surrounding Areas Walking Group, which it sounds a bit like a Facebook group for selling stuff, doesn't it? And surrounding areas, that kind of thing. So had to come up with a name, and it just stuck. Green Walks, of course. Greenwoods Foundation, Green Walks. We're in walking in green spaces. It just came to me one day, and that was it. The name came up with itself. It was as if that happened. So had a name, and with every funding application I was doing, I was learning more, and that's the important thing. If you're trying to pursue something, trying to follow your own little path, and you don't think you can do it, if you can make mistakes and you can learn from them, at that point in time you're much more informed than you were previously. So you're actually more like the person that can do that kind of thing. So that's what I said to myself. Like it was like the hitchhiking trip. You know, it was 2 years hitchhiking alone across the world, from the UK to Australia. And day one, looked at the map. I thought, no way I can do this. How the hell am I going to get through China? What am I going to do with the Kazakhstani police, the Kazakh police? And it was just like, it was this big scary thing, and I thought, I can't deal with these problems. And I was right. On that one day, I couldn't deal with those problems. They were too foreign, too out there, too big, too dangerous. But I could deal with today's problems and next week's problems, just about next week's problems. So said to myself, just focus on the next 7 days. Get to Dover, get to the end of your country. You've done that before, you can do it. You can do that. And I did. Very difficult, very challenging, very tiring, but I did it, and I felt great. And I'd learned some new things along the way. I'd learned how to talk to the police when they come and approach me, because they did in Dover. It was a lovely guy, this officer, but I was hitchhiking on in the Dover ferry port, and he just came up to me and he said, "You, he trying to get across?" And he told me a different place to go. He wasn't angry at all or horrible. He was just giving me help. Really, he was just saying, "I can't let you stand here because there's a refugee crisis at the moment. We got people trying to smuggle themselves across the channel, and well, look at you right now, you know. So if you go up the A road over there, then that's fine. That's that's outside what I'm trying to do at work today." So that was it. So made it to Dover, and that was it. So then made it across the channel to Europe, and suddenly I felt just a bit more able to do the rest of it. So going back to our CIC, the really big funders, the lottery, children in need, that kind of thing, it was quite similar. I thought, how the hell am I ever going to get such a big amount of money out of these people, like to do our project? And I thought, that's quite a big challenge. But I'd already done one application, it had failed. Tried another one, failed. Another one failed. I think I did about 14, and I really tried with them as well. I really put work in. I basically learned after the first 2 or 3 that the funders aren't there to give you money, just give you money. They're obviously there to give you money. They're not just there to give you money, they're wanting something back from you. Because why would someone give you money if they don't want something back? Yeah, they're giving money to a CIC or a charity, but they want something as well. They either want to have their name on your project, which is fair enough. You know, the lottery's given us £20,000. We're very happy to say they gave it to us and put the logo on whatever we do. So, but they also want to be understood as they want their mission to be understood and affirmed and aligned with. So there was one organisation, the Four Winds Trust. They've given us £1,500, which is incredible. And the way I attacked that one, the way I worked on that application was I read everything that they had on their website, all their stats, what their mission is, what they want over the next 5 years, projects they've previously helped, what their trust is there to do. And I thought, is this something we can align with? And it was. And I thought, I'm going to tell them how our project can help them, how our project aligns with their mission. And I thought, it's not about me anymore. It's not about our CIC. It's about them. And we did the same thing with the lottery. When I wrote that application, I looked at their, I think it's a plan by 2030 they have. So it's like a 5-year plan now. Looked at their 5-year plan, what it outlined, what they want to achieve, what they want to work with, who they want to work with, what they want to happen in the next 5 years. And I thought, can we help them with that? And the answer was yes, quite strongly actually, yes. So just wrote the application from the point of view of them, really. How is it good for them? Not give me money, I want to do this. It's, if you give us this money, this is what you will get out of it. And that just seemed to really change things. It seemed to really help. So that's how I write funding applications now, and it's a good idea, I think. It's also really good to just use that in life in general. You know, but so many people out there think everything's about them, and for them it is, I suppose. But when you're talking with people, when you're doing some sort of exchange, maybe you're setting up a business, you're going for a new client, or you just want to do something. When you're dealing with people that can help you, you have to just think, how can I help them as well? And one of the ways you can show that that's how you're thinking is by listening to them. If you can talk for less than half of the time you're with someone, they'll really like you because you've let them talk about themselves, and that's very charming as well. I know that when people let me talk about myself, I absolutely love it, and I do like them more. But yeah, so that was it really. It was about 4 months of just solid grant writing, funding application making, disappointment after disappointment. You know, it was getting closer to the baby getting here. It's any week now really that it's going to arrive, and I remember thinking, I just really hope I can get funding by the time it gets here, because if I can, then this baby's got a dad who's doing what he loves, and he's got more time at home because it's all the admin, all the director salary stuff is working from home really. So I can be at home, and it's more income than what I was on working in mental health. And I just thought I've got to make it work, and it did. It was a lot of pressure, but I just thought I can't be away for 12-hour days when the baby's here. I know many people are, but I had a way to not do that. I had a way forward. Many people there isn't. It just isn't. It's really hard to make opportunities like that because they're really hard to notice, but also even harder to make happen. Actually, no, I'd say once you notice an opportunity, I'd say it's harder to work out what you want to do than it is to actually do it, and to admit that to yourself. Has been for me anyway. Once I've noticed something that I want to do, I've found it quite easy. Not quite easy, but easier to go and do it. The problem a lot of the time, like I talked with my friend Jack about this, he just doesn't know what to do. It's a really hard thing to work out what you want to do. I suppose the only way you get there is by picking something and realising that's not what you want to do, but maybe noticing something else. Anyway, so 4 months, lots of disappointment, but here we are. We've got funding, we're good to go, we're helping the community, and it's all happy. So where do we want to be in the future? Really, the ultimate goal is to be part of a cultural shift towards being outside much more often, much like the Scandinavians are. Their culture is centered around being outdoors. When you go over, if you ever go to Scandinavia, we've been to Norway and Sweden, I wear outdoor trousers quite a bit, like different colours, like protected knees and bum and stretchy, that kind of thing, fancy colours. They're quite hard to find in the UK because we're not outdoorsy at all. We hate being outdoors, love being inside. Still not sure why that is, but Scandinavians absolutely love it. It's normal. It's really weird to be indoors all the time over there. Yeah, they love it outdoors. And if you go over there, we go over there once a year to buy trousers. I love these trousers that they have. They fit me really, really well. So I've got a funny shaped body. I've got very chunky legs, but very short legs. But they just maybe they all have them out there. I don't know. And yeah, it just shows in pretty much, well, in every city there's several shops that sell outdoor gear. It's like a high street shop. It's really, really common out there, but in this country it's not. It's quite hard to find outdoor shops. So lost my train of thought now. Yes, we want to shift the UK towards being outside as often as Scandinavians are, really, because I think that's really the path forward to good mental health for the whole country and connection. We've done a lot of research on this, and mental health and social connection are strongly linked with how much time you have outdoors. The human being's baseline, the normal state of a human mind, is to be quite happy, able to face challenges, and to feel quite connected. But I believe that the reason we don't feel like that as a norm is, and the reason there's such a mental health crisis at the moment, is we're not giving ourselves what we need. If you take away what you need, you tend to suffer. If you take food away, you tend to lose weight, you get scratchy, you get irritable. Depending how long, you can even die. So if you take away social connection, again, you age quicker, you're more stressed, less able to face challenges, you're less happy, more depressed. If you take someone away from the outdoors, it's the same thing. You are less able to heal from injuries, which is really interesting. You require more pain medication if you've just had surgery. There was one study on that. You feel less able to face challenges, like I've said, and you can't regulate your emotions as well if you're not outside as much as you need to be. So there's countless studies on this, and I think I'll do an episode in the future just summarising it all, because it's all very here and there at the moment in my head. But yeah, it's really just, we just want to show people that that's the way forward, really. It's not about take some medication, it's get outside. And we've actually started working with a social prescriber in the NHS who refers people to us who have seen him because they're struggling with their mental health or isolation, and he sends them to us. He says, go on this walking group, it's a really good thing, it's better than any medication, because the medication, all it'll do is mask the symptoms, it'll make them go away potentially, but it won't solve the real problem, which is that you're not outside as much as you need to be. So that's the future for us, that's where we want to be. How to get there? Keep this walking group going, maybe expand it to twice a week, maybe go to other areas, other counties. We're also working on a new project called Green Futures, which is where we go into schools and we take the most deprived, challenged, held back children, the ones who are doing quite poorly in school, not because they have no potential, but because their potential's being held back by whatever circumstances they're in. Some kids just don't fit well in the classroom. I was definitely one of those kids. I did not like the classroom setting. It was always a case of being outside, and what you find with those kids is when you get them outside, those bad kids, air quotes, they tend to be the best outside. They do the best work. If you do whittling with them, they make the best sculptures. If you do making fires with them, they're the quickest to pick it up. It's like they're just in the wrong place. So we want to get those kids outside into an outside setting for a couple of hours a week and just let them grow in the setting they need to grow in. So that's another way we're going to achieve this vision. And that's all we have at the moment. That's really where we are. But for now, we're going to keep going with those two projects and see what else comes about, really. I'm sure there's a completely different future that's ahead of us, but we just can't see it yet because we have to, I suppose, master these two projects. And also, you've probably noticed this, but you can't really see 5 years ahead. You can't even see 1 year ahead. You think you can. You can use whatever information you have now to look into the future, and it might end up kind of like that, but it probably won't, because there's so much at work, there's so much going on that you can't see, and also the world's always changing. There's always new things happening that you can't predict. So we're kind of, you sort of have to go along with 1 foot in what you know and 1 foot in what you don't know. You have to keep your eyes open to what's coming your way, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to keep going with what we know, which is how to run the walking group, the hikes and everything, how to run the school, and just keep an eye open for what people say, what they tell us, because people can see it from the outside. They can see, this is what you're doing, this is what you could do, this is, talk to this person. Because you'll have experienced this as well. You can see someone's situation from the outside. You can often see something they can't, or several things they can't, and I suppose whether or not they choose to listen to you depends on, well, will determine how well they do in whatever they're doing. So anyway, that's about it, really. That's this week's episode. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.